Hello everybody, me again, Dreams Eternal OSAS Cora. I hope you're all okay, and it's Mother's Day today, so happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. I hope all the mums have been spoiled. I've been spoiled today, although my family spoil me all the time. I don't need Mother's Day for that, but I have had a lovely day today. Why am I doing a posting on Mother's Day? Well, it got me thinking about last year, which was my first official Mother's Day out of the organisation, because we'd been Jehovah's Witnesses, and as you know, Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate anything. Mother's Day, Father's Day, Grandmother's Day, Grandfather's Day, Easter, Christmas, birthdays. In fact, there's not much they do celebrate. Actually, so it's probably quicker to do the things they do celebrate as opposed to the things they don't. Beside the point. Well, it got me thinking about what happened last year, because it was going to be the first year that we had celebrated Mother's Day, because we had resigned from the organisation officially in the November of the year before, 2011. So my whole family had not spoken to us since. So you're now looking at March, and this was leading up to the Monday before Mother's Day, so just literally a week before the Sunday, Mothering Sunday. And I decided to ring my mum, because Charlotte, our daughter, had been asking about her a lot, saying how is she, and have you heard from Nana, and can I speak to Nana? And obviously Nana wasn't having anything to do with us anymore, so it was pretty obvious that she didn't want to know. But to explain that to a grandchild is very difficult when they've had non-stop communication with that grandparent ever since they were born. In fact, my mum was the first person to touch Charlotte when she was born. So, you know, it's quite a big thing to suddenly have someone there and then not. So I decided to ring Mum and see how she was, and she answered straight away, which I was quite shocked about, because I wasn't expecting her to answer. I didn't know what to expect, to be quite honest. Just guessed really that they wouldn't have anything to do with wanting to talk to me on the phone, because of the way that we'd been treated up to that point. So she answered and said that she'd been trying to get hold of me, and I thought, well, I haven't had any missed calls, so I said, I'm glad we're talking now then, that's great. She said, what are you doing at the moment? And I said, I'm looking at Mark, thinking we've got to go back to work. Not much, why? And she said, could I come and see you? And I said, yes. Oh, that would be lovely, I'll put the kettle on. No. Can we meet on more neutral ground? And I thought, neutral ground? And I said to her, neutral ground, do you not view this as neutral ground, Mum? And she said, no, not particularly. What about Grandma's? Now, my mum had actually lived with us for 10 months, so this had actually been her home. So for her to say that it wasn't neutral ground, that's quite upsetting, because we haven't done anything to say that it wasn't neutral ground. The only thing we've done is left an organisation. So quite a profound thing to say, really. So anyway, I said, well, okay. And she said, what about Grandma's? Now, my grandmother lives around the corner from us, so wouldn't have been, it's not hard for me to get there. And I said, well, that's fine. How's my grandmother going to feel? How's Grandma going to feel about me coming? As she's still a Jehovah's Witness. And I said, is she going to be okay with me being in her home? Oh, yes, that's fine. Can I meet you there at 4? Well, this was around 2 o'clock. So I looked at Mark and he said, yeah, go. I'll carry on work. You go and see your mum. So I went round there to meet her, and she then proceeded to tell me that she had lung cancer. Oh, okay. And immediately I said, well, what do we do from here? Can I, what appointments have you got? Let's go, I'll come with you. Now, I'd had actually been with my mum in this situation a few years before, because she had breast cancer, and I had been with her on every appointment. I had made sure that I was there with her operations. I'd literally been with her almost 24/7. I took a year off work in order to go through all of her treatments with her. So straight away I'm thinking, it's going to be the same again, and I will definitely be there 100%. This is my mum, I want to be with her. So that's what I decided to do. But straight away her reaction was, no, I don't need you. And I said, what do you mean? It's not a case of needing, Mum. I want to be with you. You know, please let me be with you. And she said to me, no, I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow morning. And I said, well, can I come with you? Can I take you? No, I've got a lift, thank you. And I said, well, can I come in with you then? No, I've got somebody to go in with me, thank you. And I said, well, what's happening? She said, well, your auntie's dropping me off and I'm going in with my friend. And Jamie's meeting us there. Jamie's my brother. And I said, well, if my brother's meeting you there, I said, can't I come as well and just wait and see if you're okay? I said, can't I take you? You know, is my auntie coming in with you? No, she's going to drop us off and then come back for us later. I said, well, I'll wait for you. I said, I won't drop you off. I'll wait in the car park. No, wasn't good enough. So anyway, I said, well, when you've come out of your appointment tomorrow, can you let me know how it goes, please, straight away? I want to know. Can you ring me, please? And if you don't feel up to it, I understand, but could you get someone else to at least tell me what the outcome was and what they've said? I'd really appreciate it, Mum, please. Just ring me. Yep, that's fine. I'll do that. So anyway, her appointment was at 9:15 the following morning, which was the Tuesday. And I sat upstairs waiting. I had two phones, the mobile phone and the home phone in my hands, just in case I wasn't sure which one she'd ring. And I waited there all morning and no phone call came. I didn't even want to go to the loo because I thought I don't want to miss the call. So I sat there with these two phones waiting all morning, and it got to about 2:30 when the phone rang, and my mum said, sorry about taking so long to ring you. I said, don't worry about that, I'm just glad you did. What have they said? And she said, it's in my liver as well. Well, that hit me like a bolt of lightning, and I said, well, okay, this goes beyond anything that you've said now about not having me there or anything. I said, this is important, Mum. This is not about anything other than I'm your daughter and I want to be with you. Please let me be with you. What have they said? What your treatment's going to be? Where do we go? Can I come with you, please? Can I at least take you to these appointments that you're going to have from now? She said she had radiotherapy going to be happening from the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so the following day, and then the leading up to those 3 days left of that week, and then the Monday and the Tuesday of the following. And I said, well, can I take you to any of those, please? Just 1, 2. I'll come with you. I'll wait with you. I don't have to come in if you don't want me to, but I'll wait and I'll take you to and from your appointments. No, I've got them all sorted. They're all organised. I don't need you for any of them. The conversation went on a bit like that, really, and I was in tears and I couldn't even talk. The phone call ended and I just bawled my heart out. I couldn't do anything else. The emotion just flowed and I didn't know what to do. I just sat there and I couldn't believe the fact that my mum had just told me this news and she wasn't even allowing me to be any part of what was going to be her treatment and possibly what little lifetime expectancy or what life she had left. And as a mother, I couldn't comprehend that if my daughter wanted to spend time with me, I couldn't understand why she wasn't allowing me to. Yes, she's a Jehovah's Witness. Yes, I've left the organisation, but I hadn't left my family. I've left an organisation, a cult, a structured system organised by men, sat telling people like my mum that that shunning and that having nothing to do with family members that decide to not have anything to do with the religion is a loving thing to do. This isn't loving. That wasn't loving. That wasn't from God. That wasn't from Jehovah as they would have you think it was. I then was faced with the turmoil then of I have to now tell my daughter and my family that my mum has just given me this news and she doesn't want anything to do with us. I spent the rest of that week mourning her. I sent her a letter, a card, which I did, and I put in there about how this family arrangement was designed and created by our God, and I put Jehovah as the God because I wanted her to understand that I understand that's who she felt God was, and I didn't want her having a backup. And I said that the family arrangement is one that, you know, our God understands, and that this is important. Families are important, love is important, and especially at a time like this. And please let us be a part of your life. It's very painful to not be. I sent that card, and I didn't know she received it because I had no acknowledgement whatsoever of the card. Weeks went by, and what I will say, mourning her proceeded to carry on, because she was forcing us to mourn her already before her death, because I had no option other than to do that, and neither did my children and my husband, because we weren't able to have anything to do with her physically. So all we could do was pray for her and mourn her. It sounds sad, but that we were given no other option. Months went by, and I mean months, and it came to August when I had a phone call off of my brother saying to me that Mum was very poorly, and she'd been in hospital, and that he'd had a chat with one of the doctors, and that they'd said that she hadn't got long. And he said, when you say you haven't got long, what do you mean? And he said, we're pretty sure on these things now. We're pretty good at what we do, and looking at your mum, she hasn't got long. And he said that he discussed with Mum that she needed to tell me, and that she said she would. Well, the last time she told Jamie that, my mum didn't tell me, and Jamie didn't find out till much later. So he took it upon himself to tell me that Mum wasn't well at all, and she only literally had probably a few weeks, if that. And I said, well, I'd like to see her. And he said, I knew you would, and that's why I'm ringing you. Can I bring her to see you? I said, yes, please, please. I would love you to bring her to see me, please. Bring her to us. I'd love you to, please. That's fantastic. Thank you. When? This was a Wednesday, and he said, can I come Friday? I said, perfect. Yep, whatever. I'll clear the diary. I will make sure I'm here. What time do you want to come? He said, well, I'll pick her up in the morning, so we'll be with you late morning. He said to me, don't tell Dad at the moment, because I said, well, I'll leave that up to you then, because obviously I don't want it coming second hand. It needs to come from you. If it comes from me, it's not going to sound right. So, and he said, and Mum wants to see you. I'm bringing Mum to see you at the moment. We'll see about Dad later. So I thought, well, that's up to them. We'll see. I was just relieved she was coming. So the Friday came, and when the Friday came, the Thursday before, Mark and I had sat down and we discussed having Mum living back here with us, and I so wanted that to happen. So did Mark. So we sat down, we wrote her a letter, because we thought telling her we want her to move in might come better when there's no eyes and pressure on her to give us a decision straight away. So we thought, well, maybe we should write it in a letter, and then she can read it for herself, look and see that we meant it, and in that way she can read it over and over again and understand that we mean it, that we really want her to live with us, whatever time she's got left, so I can nurse her, be with her, spend time with her. Whatever time she's got here, I want to spend with her. So we wrote her a long letter, and we were both quite emotional writing it, because it's a powerful thing when you're starting to explain to somebody how much you feel about them, and you don't know how this is going to be accepted. You can only base it on what you've been through up to that point, which was non-love, really. Anyway, she turned up on the Friday, and she came in, and she was yellow, where obviously her liver was stopping working, and her eyes were yellow as well, the whites of her eyes, and she lost her hair, so she had a wig on. She came in and she sat down, and I hugged her, and it was like hugging a wall. I had no response off of her whatsoever, no warmth there. And I immediately started to tear up because I knew this was going to be an emotional day. And I'd said to my husband, Mark, please don't, I said, take the children, don't let them come back. They'd actually were off school that week, and I'd thought about having them here, and I thought, no, because I haven't seen Mum for so many months. If she is looking really poorly, I want to be able to prepare my children before, if they ever see her again, how she's looking. I don't want them being really distraught by that. So I wanted the first meeting to be with my brother and myself and my mum. And my mum was so cold. She sat there, and I said, I've got a letter I want to read to you. And she said to me, okay. And I said, do you want to take it away with you, or do you want me to read it for you, or to you? And she said, you can read it to me. So I read it out loud, and as I was reading it, I was crying. And Jamie was crying, but she wasn't. There was no emotion. It said, please move back in with us, we love you, we want to nurse you, we want to take care of you and spend whatever time you have left with us. And she didn't want to know. There was no emotion there whatsoever. So I gave her the letter, folded it up, and I gave it to her, and I thought, well, she can read that again and hopefully she'll have a better response maybe than there was just now. The whole time she was there, I thought, this isn't my mum anymore. There's no person there. She has no love for me there. I don't feel it. I don't see it. So I rang my husband, Mark, and I said, can you bring the children back? Because I thought, actually, they need to say goodbye, and this is an opportunity now for them to have closure. And if I stopped them from saying goodbye, I don't think I could live with myself if anything happened from that point. And I had a feeling that would probably be the last time I saw my mum. So they came back, and Charlotte was so emotional to see her. She started crying straight away and hugged her nan, and she was trying to catch up to her on the sofa, and my mum wasn't having any of it. And I just looked and I thought, that's your granddaughter. It's your granddaughter trying to show you love and affection, and you're not allowing her to do that. That's wrong. That's not right. But Charlotte, I think, after not seeing her for so many months, to have that reaction kind of gave her a bit of closure. And in a way, it couldn't have been any better, because well, it could, because Mum could have been different. She could have been loving, she could have been non-shunning, she could have been wonderfully warm like a mother would be, especially with their grandchild that's trying to catch up to them. But it gave my children closure, it gave us closure, that actually everything that we'd been put through over the last few months of not having any contact, we weren't missing anything, because there was no genuine love there. Very sad. And my mum left, and I said to her, can I see you again? And she said, we'll see. I said, we'll see. And I looked at my brother, and my brother said, leave it with me and I'll see what I can do. I said, okay, I'll leave it with you. And I thought, my own mother says we'll see about seeing me again. Okay, that's not friendly, that's not loving, there's no warmth. And it was a real strange last meeting. I didn't know it was going to be my last meeting. I had a phone call off my brother on the Monday to say that he'd had a weekend with Mum. They'd had her home for a meal and everything, and I thought, that's nice, I'd have liked to have done that. And he said, do you want to come and see Mum again on the Thursday with me? I'd pick you up and we'll go and see her. I said, is the lady, the sister that she's living with, is she okay about me coming? I've asked her permission, and she said that's okay. Obviously you have to ask permission when you're an apostate to go and see anybody, to enter in their home, because you're evil. So I was going to go with my brother on that Thursday, and on the Thursday came, I had a phone call off with my brother to say, actually, Mum, I've had a phone call off of this sister, and she said Mum's had a very bad evening and a bad night, so she's not up to any visitors. So can we leave it today, and can we go, do you want to go and see her tomorrow, which would be Friday? And I said, yes, okay, that's fine, I understand. I said that, I mean, if Mum's not up to company, I'm not going to force her to feel shattered and emotionally drained by having someone there. So I said, that's absolutely fine, I understand. So what time do you want to go? And he said, well, I'll give you a ring tomorrow and we'll arrange it probably afternoon. So I said, okay, I'll make sure I'm here, and I'll wait for your call. Anyway, I had a really strange night that night, couldn't sleep very well, but when I did go off, I went off, and then I went to work in the morning with the boys, my husband and our older son, and about 11:30 I had a phone call off my brother, and I was expecting one because we were going to arrange what time, and he said, I'm so sorry. And I said, what? And he said, Mum passed away this morning. And I said, okay, so she's died? And he said, yes. And I sat for a while, and I was trying to take it in, and I said, okay. I said, thank you for ringing me, Jamie. I said, I do appreciate you telling me. And I thank you for bringing her to see me last week. And in fact, I had a feeling I wouldn't see her again. And he said, well, I had a phone call at 8 o'clock this morning, just gone 8 o'clock, saying that she was on her last legs, and I should rush to get there. And he got there a little too late, I think 10 minutes too late, and she'd passed away. And I'm now receiving a phone call at 11:30. That didn't hit me until a little later, that she died before 9 o'clock, and I got a call at 11:30 telling me she died. I didn't get a call at 8 o'clock. Come quickly, she's on her last legs, come and see your mum before she passes away. No, I didn't get a call when my brother, I understand he had to rush there, but I didn't get a call off of him to say, I'm on my way to see Mum, it doesn't look like she's going to last much longer, you need to come, this is the address. I got a call after the event. How many people got a phone call before I did? How many people knew about my mum's death before I did? I come so far down the pack and the pecking order, it's unbelievable. The eldest daughter, the only daughter, wasn't told until 2.5 hours later. Very, very interesting. That's a cult, and that's a shunning, and that's a loving, supposed to be a loving organisation. That. Look at what it does to people that are in it. Look at the lack of love that my family, my own family, show in such a circumstance like that, and a situation like that. Just look at that. Do you know, I found out that I still have never seen where my mum was living. I still have never known where my mum moved to. When my mum received that Mother's Day card off of me, about 3 weeks later or so, Mark and I decided to take some flowers round to her. And we turned up, and I knocked on the door, and I thought I'd got the wrong house, because there was a lady that answered the door holding a baby, and I said, is Joanne in? And she said, Joanne? No, there's no Joanne here. And I said, oh. And I stood back and looked at the house. I said, no Joanne, no, no any of these people that were living. I said, none of these people here. No. Oh, she said, well, we moved in 2 weeks ago, if that's any consequence. And I said, I said, sorry to bother you, thank you very much. I got back in our vehicle, and I looked at Mark, and I said, she's moved. And she hasn't even told me she's moved. Gobsmacked. She truly had cut me off. Wow. No one told me that my mother had moved. The first I knew about it was when she was dying, and my brother was telling me that she'd moved, and that was it. I knew she'd moved because I'd found out for myself, but where she was living, nobody told us. Going to the funeral was another kettle of fish. My brother was lovely, and I said to him straight away, I'm going to take pressure off of you right now, and I'm going to say to you straight away, I'm not coming to the Kingdom Hall. My reasons for not coming to the Kingdom Hall to my mother's funeral were very obvious. I'd been to funerals before where non-witness relatives had been and watched how the apostate was treated, and also being a witness looking at the apostates in the hall at the funeral distracts from the whole funeral itself. And I did not want my mother's funeral being distracted by a load of people staring at me and my children and my family because we hadn't been in a Kingdom Hall since we'd left and resigned, distracting from the whole purpose of them being there in the first place, which was my mother's funeral. So I said to him, I will help you. I do not want to go to the Kingdom Hall. I will not be going. I said, and I will not be going to the wake after. I said, we'll do our own. I said, I will go to the crematorium, but I said, I will not be going to the other two. And he thanked me. And I said, anything I can do to help, let me know. I'm here. So I arranged the flowers from us. I arranged flowers from my father. I paid for them as well because he had no money to bury his own wife. So my brother was taking care of those arrangements, and we were taking care of all of the arrangements our side. So there you go, that's what we ended up having to do. But as to the rest of the arrangements, I didn't want to be part of the witnesses. I didn't want to be part of it. I really didn't. I knew the way that we would be treated, and going to the crematorium, wow. I wore dark glasses. I never wear sunglasses anywhere. My mum was always one for wearing sunglasses because you can hide behind them, which is exactly why I wore them to the funeral, to the crematorium, and it gave me an opportunity to really see what was happening without people knowing I was looking at them. And I'm telling you now, not one person, not one, came up and said, I'm so sorry about your mum. Not one person. There were hundreds of witnesses there. Hundreds. They all knew me. They'd all known me growing up in this organisation. And not one witness came up, touched me on the arm, gave me a I'm sorry look, or a not one. My family, my auntie, my cousins, my grandmother, all stood there and stared at us. One sister in the congregation, who used to take her daughter to the same school as our daughter, barged past my family, myself, my children and my husband, and took front row and centre in position in front of my auntie, my uncle and my grandmother, and went and stared with the most evil stare I've ever seen. I've seen this sister since. In fact, at Tesco's the other day, I went to get a trolley. She barged past me, grabbed a trolley. I might as well have been dirt on her shoe. And then I looked at her and I thought, you're supposed to be a Christian, and you have no idea what you are doing when you are acting like that. thought, it's not me that you have to be worried about. It really isn't. The shunning happens on a day-to-day basis here in our town. We call the school our local shunning ground, and we call our local supermarket our local shunning ground. It's Tesco's here in our town, and it's yeah, very interesting. But the funeral, a sister who had known us for years came up and said, "Does anybody know where we're supposed to be sitting?" And I looked and I thought, are you talking to us? Sorry, but no, I don't know where anyone's supposed to be sitting. Walking into the crematorium, I just about managed to get a seat where the family's supposed to sit. Only just. I sat right at the back, mind, but I just managed to get a seat. I got barged out the way as people were trying to get into the crematorium, and I took one stand back and I just thought, everything's going on right now, the evil stares, the looks, the nasty, you can see the muttering under the breath. In fact, we got pointed at and by a couple of other people describing who we were and explaining who we were to them. That's the daughter. Really? That's her daughter? Very intriguing. And I thought, yeah, it's exactly what would have happened at the Kingdom Hall, and that's exactly what would happen at the wake. There would be no point in me going, because none of them would want to talk to me, as we're apostate. What does apostate mean? It means we no longer want anything to do with a man-made organisation professing to be the channel of God. That's what it is. That's all it is. And yet we're being treated like we're the most evil criminals on this earth. The funeral was horrendous. I felt nothing but hatred. I felt nothing but lack of love. And I have never felt like that before, ever. My little niece, who I think she's 3 now, could be 4, it's all this non-celebrating birthday thing, you see. You do lose track of ages, which we're put in right mind now. She grabbed hold of my grandmother and dragged her over to Charlotte. Look, Charlotte, look, Grandma, Charlotte Rose. And she's pulling her and introducing my own grandmother to me and to Charlotte, as if she's never met us before. What does that tell you? This little girl, who was a relation, who's my niece, doesn't even know that that's my grandmother, that that's my daughter's great-grandmother. She said to me, "We still love you, you know." I looked at her and I said, "I've never stopped loving any of you, but you've got a funny way of showing it, Grandma." And I hugged her and I kissed her and she walked away. And I just thought, you have no idea, you really don't, what love means. You don't acknowledge the fact that my mother's died, and none of you are acknowledging that I'm her daughter. I even found out later that my mother's possessions, which by the way I haven't got any, my grandmother and my auntie couldn't wait to go through it all. And apparently they were rummaging through like vultures. I find that completely disturbing. My brother managed to grab a couple of little rings, which I'd actually bought my mum. They were only cheap things from a clothes shop, and but he said I wasn't sure if they were worth anything. I said they're not. I said they cost about £5, but I said they were nice blingy things at the time when I took her shopping once. But I said that, it'd be nice for Charlotte to have something of hers. I haven't got anything of my mother's. She didn't leave me anything to remember her by. She didn't want me to have anything to remember her by, because I don't exist. That's what's sad about this organisation, is you don't exist. When you leave and you don't exist. And my family have made that very clear. The looks I get off of my cousin-in-law and her sister works in a bank, and I went in there the other day to pay some checks in, and she avoided me like the plague, and the assistant tried to call her over because she's a manager to serve me, and I took one look at the assistant and I said, she won't want to serve us, and I said, even if you wanted me to, I wouldn't want to be served by her. I really wouldn't. But thank you very much for asking. I wanted to shout out why. I wanted to say and point and say, that manager there, she's shunning me because I've left her religion. She's shunning me. We've shared meals together. We've shared company together. I've known that they've never really liked me. But I said, now they've got an excuse to not like me. And they've got an excuse to not talk to me. But you know what? It's fine. Because in spite of everything, even though we get shunned like we do, we're still happy. And we love properly now. And I do understand the meaning of death. And I do understand the meaning of life. And I'm very sad they don't. I'm sorry this has gone on for so long. I could carry on talking about our shunning experiences, but what I will say is, it's a cult. It's evil. And I've felt so much hatred from what would be supposedly a loving organisation. If they shun because they want to drag you back in, all it does is push you away more, because you can see it for what it really is. It's not loving. It really isn't loving.